Hello my dear students, and welcome to another video for our class in Information Management 2. We are now in week 9 of the first semester, and this session's topic is all about Java Database Connectivity, or JDBC. This will be the start of our programming and learning journey in the world of Java applications development, with the purpose of being able to develop database-driven applications using the Java programming language. So, what is Java database connectivity? It is simply an API. An API is an applications programming interface. This JDBC API provides a universal data access for the Java programming language. It is used to connect to virtually any data source. It can be used to connect to MySQL database or MS SQL Server database, Postgres SQL, even SQLite, MS Access, and many other database engines or database servers that are on the market today. So, JDBC technology also provides a common base on which tools and alternate interfaces can be built, still following the JDBC framework. So, the JDBC architecture in which we are going to follow your application, or the application that you are going to build using Java, the programming language, is going to use the API, the JDBC API, and this JDBC API will also require a class library called a driver, and this driver is the one that's going to directly communicate with the database engine that you are trying to connect with. The driver and the database engine here are all on a separate entity, so to say. So the JDBC is part of the Java standard edition. So the API is already part of Java. It's already in the Java libraries, but the driver and the database engine are not. So if you are, for example, going to connect your application to a MS SQL Server database, then the MS SQL Server database is the database engine, and that is a third party or not part of Java per se, and will also require you to use a driver, JDBC compliant driver, which is specific to MS SQL Server as well. So the basic components that we'll be working on when we start writing Java applications that talk to databases is, of course, firstly the database engine that you want to use. You can have MySQL, Postgres SQL, MS SQL Server, or any other SQL database engine out there. You can even use SQLite for that purpose. And for each of those that I mentioned, there is also a compliant driver library, which contains all the code that allows a Java application to actually connect and talk to the database engine. And finally, of course, the JDBC API, which contains all the classes that you actually use to manipulate the database. So the basic workflow is simply to first identify the driver class name, since for each and every database engine there is a different driver. You are going to simply identify what driver you are going to use, and thereby connecting you to the actual database engine of your choice. From the database driver, you can now create a connection object, and the connection object will be maintained. While the object will be maintained, you can create a statement object. And the statement object is where you write your SQL statement that you want to issue into your database. Once you execute the statement from your statement object, you can either manipulate data into your database, or if you are retrieving data using a select statement, you are going to get a result set object, and the result set object holds all the data that was returned by the database based on your select statement, which you can now manipulate in Java programmatically. So these are the three basic classes that you use in JDBC. Of course, there are some other classes, but basically these are the three. The connection object, which maintains the connection between your Java application and the database engine. The statement object, which represents the SQL statement that is executed upon the database engine that you are using. And the result set object, which carries the data set that was given to us from the database engine based on your DQL statement. So let's now start coding. But before we do that, we of course need to do some preliminary tasks. One is we download the database driver for MySQL, since we will be using MySQL database engine for this particular example. Second, we are going to add the driver, the one that we downloaded. We are going to add that into our Java application project as a library. Next, since now we have connected our JDBC driver into our application, we can now connect to the SQL database within our Java application. Once we get the connection, we are going to create and execute a statement object. And that statement object is going to give us a result set which we can manipulate and use for this particular purpose. Apache NetBeans IDE version 12. This is what we are going to use in this demonstration. First of all, we create a new project by clicking on this icon, or File, New Project. And in the New Project dialog box, for older versions of the NetBeans IDE, you don't have Gluon or Java with Maven or Gradle on your selection here. What you only have maybe is Java, JavaFX, and so on. So just click on Java and then select Java application on the projects box. That will be the same in my case. Click on Next, and then here we're going to give this a name. I'm going to call this JDBC Demo Project. Select our location, browse to select our location. I think this is already good, but to make sure I go to I am in the correct location. So under IM2, it's gonna be inside demos. So kamo magbuot ug asa niyo ibutan yung file. And then here on the main class, I'll just call this launcher, and then click on finish. Now the next thing we need to do is to import the newly downloaded driver into our libraries. We already have here our libraries folder, which currently now only includes our JDK 11. So what we can do is right click on the libraries and add jar/folder. And then let's point our direction to our downloads, or to where you put your downloaded MySQL connector driver. And mine is inside downloads under software, and this is the one that I downloaded, and when extracted produces this folder. So we're gonna click on this folder, and inside we have here our MySQL connector Java 5.1.49.jar. I think we'll be using this one instead of the bin one. Okay, click on OK. So there you go. We have now imported our MySQL connector library, and these are the packages that is included in this library. Next is to import all the necessary classes that we will be using in this demonstration. So this is a very simple demonstration of having a connection and creating a statement and executing a statement which results in a result set, and using the result set to display data. Of course, we are going to be using MySQL database for this. So just to demonstrate, we have here our database. I'll be using the peer database, and which has these tables, and inside the users table we have this set of users. Okay, we'll be using this database. Now going back to our IDE, we first need to import the classes that we'll be using. First class that we'll be importing is the driver manager. So import, it's inside java.sql driver manager. Also the connection, so import still java.sql connection. Another one is the statement, and also the result set. There you go. Now the next thing here in our main method is to actually make a connection, and to do that we have to identify our driver. Okay, so to identify our driver we have to put all our code, in this case inside of a try catch clause, because a lot of the code that we are going to use is bound to throw an exception. So we'll just be, for now, since this is a very basic demonstration, we'll just be trapping exception in general and printing the stack trace out there. Now to identify the driver, we say class.forName, and then the driver name can be found right here in your library. It's actually inside of our MySQL connector, and in this class here this is where we find the driver class. See that driver class? It's inside of the package com.mysql.jdbc. So that's exactly what we're going to put here, com.mysql.jdbc and then the driver class. So that's how you identify your driver. From here we can now create a connection using the driver manager. So first let's declare a connection con and assign it with the driver manager and get a connection. Driver manager.get connection. You have three overloaded methods here. We'll be using the third one. Here in the third one we have a string for the URL, a string for the user, and a string for the password. These are the information about the access of our database engine, which in this case is the MySQL. So I'll be using this one. The URL for a MySQL connection is JDBC :mysql : and then / followed by the host at which your server is being stored or the server is being served. In our case, for this example, we are simply using this computer, so our host is localhost. If, for example, the database is found in another computer, here is where you put the IP address of that computer or the domain name of that computer. But since we are using the local server, so it's going to be just localhost. And then / the name of the database, which in this case is peer. Next, the username we'll be using is just root, and the password is just blank because there's no password. I did not set any password for this. So that's how we create our connection. From our connection we can create a statement. So we have to declare here a statement st is equal to con from the connection that we can create a statement. Now that we have a statement, we can now execute a query. Calling the statement, execute query, and the query here is going to be an SQL statement, which is simply select * from users. Now this statement is going to give us a result set. So let's declare a result set rs and assign it with the value or the output of the execute query. Now that we have our result set object, this result set object actually contains or holds reference to the data coming from the database based on this particular select statement. And for this example, let's just display the first record. Specifically, let's display just the full name of the first record. Now in our database that I've shown you earlier, it is Mark Joseph Guerra. So let's see if we can display that guy. Here, we're simply going to have a system.out and just say first user, and after that we are going to access the result set. First day, we have to select the first record in our result set by calling rs.first. This statement moves our pointer into the first record. Since this statement returns several records, to be exact, there are how many records here? 8 records. And so we are going to, this statement simply says go to the first record. And now that we are in the first record, we are going to display the full name by calling a method of the result set called get and then string. So we're getting a string out of the result set, and practically or particularly a particular field on the result set, and in our database it's called full underscore name. So let's do that here, full underscore name. Okay, so that is it. Let's try and run this program, and we do have first user Mark Joseph Guerra. Now of course that's very simple. Let's take this one notch higher by displaying all of them. Now that we are trying to display all of them, we have to point our result set to the area before the first record. So we say rs.before first. There's also a method called before first. And then in a loop, while, we are simply going to ask if rs still have a next record. Since we are in the before first, the next is going to be the first record. The first next is the first record. And if that is true, if there is actually a first record, and we can continue and perform what's coming, which in this case will simply again display the name, the full name. So rs.getString full underscore name. And since this is a loop, it's going to go again and go to the next. So from the first goes to the second and display it again, and so on and so forth. So when we run this program, we have our list of names. So that will be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and see you again in the next one.